Welcome to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best leaders they can be in any endeavor they choose. Patty Grimm is our host and interviews top women in a variety of fields to help women grow, learn, and lean in together. Patty has over 25 years of experience in primarily male-dominated fields in senior-level management positions. Patty is the owner of Advantage Training Limited, an organizational leadership team training company. She recently released her new book for women called Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand out, and stand up. With the subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass.
All right, let's do it with Patty Grimm. Welcome, Patty.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Great, beautiful, sunny, windy day in California.
It is.
Man.
I thought it was going to blow away this morning. You know, when I hear your intro and says primarily male-dominated fields, I always think, what, like logging or something?
No, banking and IT.
Oh, okay. Right.
Banking and IT.
I want to clear that up. Right.
Yeah, I was coming up the toll road today in my SUV, and literally I was holding onto the wheel, and the car kept going to the left and right. I was just holding on with both hands. We've got a beautiful sunny day here in Southern California.
But windy.
Windy. So as our commercial said, this show is the only show on Orange County Talk Radio, and possibly the only show on talk radio in all of Orange County that's dedicated to women, for women, about issues they care about. So each week we'll talk about a variety of issues, from business issues like if you're climbing the corporate ladder, what are some successes that women have had, and how can you apply those successes to your work. Maybe you're tired of the corporate environment and you decide you're going to go start your own business. So I highly recommend, if you are in your own business or considering your own business, you join what's called the National Association of Women Business Owners, or NABO. Great organization with women that support women. I've had many times I've needed to ask a question of somebody from a legal standpoint. Our guest today is Cynthia Flynn, who happens to be an attorney. And I've had to ask a question, and I've been able to push it out to NABO and say, who can help me with this? Who can help me with marketing? Who can help me do my bloody website, which is just a disaster at the moment, so don't look at my website. But any of those kind of things. Also social issues, so things like human trafficking, Make-A-Wish Foundation, how you can support a wish of a child, helping Global Glow support girls who are in the junior high and high school age that are looking to move on in their careers in life. So that's a little bit about what we do and how do you sort of manage that work-life balance. So my guest today is Cynthia Flynn. She is an incredible attorney and owner and managing partner of Hackler, Flynn and Associates. It's a law firm with locations in L.A. and Orange County, and her firm focuses primarily on compensation, employment issues, business litigations for restaurants, manufacturer, construction business, and women entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur. After years of working with a law firm, she founded her own firm, has been practicing law for 6 years. What her firm does, I think, is really unique, is she really empowers her clients to feel protected as they create their own businesses, and helps them to do the things they need to do to stay legal, and offer superior customer service and amazing advice to her clients. So thanks for joining me today, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, Patty. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so first off, just tell us a little bit about you and your background and why you decided to go into law and how you got to where you are today. You own your own company, relatively new out of law school. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yes, I knew from age 10 I was going to be an attorney.
Was your father an attorney?
No one in my family, actually. But it was just something that I knew just deep down inside that this is what I wanted to do. By the time I was 13, I had picked out an office in Beverly Hills that my name was going to go on. And
wow.
Just always knew. So I feel very fortunate in that regard.
So why did you just start down that path at 12 or 13 years old? What made you decide to start your own law firm, or how did you get there?
You know, my best friend and I were just talking about it one day, and I'm like, that's a good profession, and I see so many people in my life that need business help and need business attorneys to help them, go through what you go through as a business owner. And so it's always been just very near and dear to my heart. My dad's a business owner, my brother is, my husband is, my mom is, and so I just knew it was something I could do to help them.
So you have a whole family of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Business owners. That's good. And do they get free advice?
Oh. I charge.
Even family?
No, of course not. Of course
Okay.
not.
Okay. So what type of clients do you work with in your business?
We work with anyone who's a business owner, right? If they're just starting out in business and they have this great idea and they need help just starting with their LLC, an entity formation or S Corp formation, all the way to people who have been in business for over 45 years doing what they love, but they just need some legal help with regard to employee issues or business issues that come up. So it's a wide range.
So I know there's a lot of women that listen to this radio show or listen to the recording that are maybe in the corporate world right now, and in the back of their mind they have this idea, I really want to start my own business. So what are some of the legal things they should think about when they're getting ready? They're still working in the corporate world, or maybe they're one of those people that got laid off and got a package, so they've got maybe a couple months of pay. What are some legal things they should really think about?
Well, I think before you even go down the path of what you should do legally, you should make sure you're really passionate about it, right? Like, passion is not something you learn. It's just something that I think is so innate in you, and that should be the number one thing you look at before starting a business. As far as the legal aspects of it, you have to have the entity formation set up. You want to make sure you have contracts in place. If you're considering partnering with someone, really take that seriously, because entering into a partnership with somebody else is similar to entering into a marriage. That person can sign contracts on your behalf. They can open up bank accounts on your behalf. They can get into debt on your behalf.
They can take money from your checking from your accounts on your behalf.
Exactly. And so you just want to make sure you really know that person very well and that you feel comfortable entering into something so serious.
Yeah. So, my corporation, I happen to be an S corporation, and I formed that back in 1993, a long time ago. And even when I went back into work in the corporate world, I still kept my business up. I kept that certification. I kept paying the fees every year because I knew eventually I'd go back out on my own again. What are some of the differences between being an LLC? And first off, what does LLC stand for? A lot of people don't know. Between being an LLC and maybe being an S corporations, what are the advantages or the differences between those two?
Sure, I'm glad you asked. So an LLC is a limited liability company, right? And there are a lot less formalities in an LLC as opposed to a corporation when you set up. And so with an LLC, you have an operating agreement, you still have your EIN or your employer identification number, and you still file articles with the Secretary of State in order to set one up. A corporation has a lot more formalities to where you have to keep track of corporate minutes. Even if you are a solo, you have to have your annual shareholders meetings. And depending on the type of business that you're entering into, one might be better for your type of business as opposed to the other. So it's really specific on the type of work that you're doing, on what's best for you. And I always recommend that you speak to a CPA or tax person in order to understand and know the tax ramifications of opening up each entity.
Yeah, I know when I did the S corporation that we went through and we needed to file that, we had to do the board of directors, we do the board meetings, all those kinds of things. And it's not that big of a challenge. It's just a little bit extra time, a little bit of extra money to do that. But one of the reasons I did the S corporation over an LLC is if there's a lot of state, local, or federal organizations that in order to be able to work with them, in order to be able to put in an RFP or a request for proposal, for example, I did one for an organization here in Orange County, it had to be an LLC. Or not an LLC, I'm sorry, it had to be an S corporation, and you had to file with them to be able to be on their list to get the opportunity to bid. There's also some interesting, whether you're LLC or corporation, there's some good certifications from the state of California that if you are on that list, you get more business because you get business you wouldn't get otherwise from larger clients. So
exactly, and that's why it's so important to speak to someone and make sure that with whatever entity you're setting up, you have a strategic plan in place and thinking forward, just so you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of clients do you work with?
So we work with all types of entrepreneurs from small to large. Some of our larger companies do, 40, 50 million a year in revenue. Some of our startups are just starting up and, they haven't even opened a bank account up yet. A lot of the industry-specific clients we work with are restaurants. We work with people in the construction field, like door and window companies, a lot of subcontractors in that regard. We work with staffing agencies and a lot of manufacturers. So there's some of the areas we're heavily involved with.
And what kind of legal issues do you consult with them or advise them on?
A lot of it is employment-based. Because California law is constantly changing, I mean, every few months it seems like we have a new legal rule coming out where, if you don't know about it, you can get really hurt in business. Especially in Los Angeles County, we have a lot of businesses there that we represent. And Santa Monica is different than West Hollywood, and West Hollywood's different than downtown. So if you have a few locations in LA, you're required to have different policies for your employees.
Now, I heard something, and I don't want to put you on the spot for a minute, but one of the things I was talking with one of our other lawyer NABO members, National Association of Women Business Owners, was that they had to make some changes to their employee handbook based on some laws about restroom availability, those kinds of things. I mean, those are kind of the things that you talk to clients about, like they may need to change their employee handbook?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If your handbook hasn't been updated in the last year or two, it's out of date, and you need that updated because, California sick time laws changed. Now we have Ban the Box in LA, which just came out this week, where it's...
what is Ban the Box?
So it's a new ordinance that just went into effect, I believe, this week in January, and it talks about the fact that you can't discriminate for somebody who has a criminal history. And so you really need to take proper precautions when you post an ad. So if you think there's a possibility that you could have any employee work or from LA, you have to comply with this law and have special language in your ad actually that talks about it. And then when they come in for an interview, you have to have the proper notice up that also discusses this law. So there's a lot you need to know.
Wow. What are some areas where some of your clients maybe get in trouble?
Oh, gosh. I see a whole host of things. A common misconception is like the employee versus independent contractor rule. Right?
Yeah, so that's a challenging one.
It is. It definitely is. And I've seen independent contractor agreements where it lists a paid time off policy and vacation days and sick days, and you just can't have that.
No.
And so California tends to side on the employee, and so if you have something like that in the court, it doesn't look good for you as the defense. But what we do as employment defense attorneys specifically is protect the business owner.
Yeah, I know when I worked at Microsoft, they were sued a number of years ago because they had so many 1099 contractors that actually had been on 1099 status for 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And they were filed a lawsuit against Microsoft because they had been there so long that they felt like they were part of the staff. They were treated like part of the staff. They were invited to strategy meetings. They were, invited to parties, all these kinds of things. And they came back and sued for overtime, vacation time, and paid sick leave, and to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. And so once that happened, we had to pass a policy that any 1099 could only be on contract and have access to internal Microsoft resources for 18 months. And then they had to roll off for 6 months, and then they could roll back on. So you had this constant rotation if you had a lot of what we called contingent staff or 1099 staff, that they had to roll off and roll back on, and you had to wait 6 months until they came back if you wanted to hire that same person back. So people kind of, I think, got around some of the rules, but it was a big deal.
Well, and I don't even know if that's a good solution nowadays.
Well, this was in Washington, so...
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And Washington laws as strict from my understanding as California. But in California you see all sorts of misclassification issues. We see a lot of, I was never paid for my break or lunch, which is known as wage and hour issues.
Right.
So we see a whole host of things.
And it's hard when you're an employer, you own the business, and you've got a really dedicated employee who says, well, I'll just work through my lunch today. You just have to say after 4 hours you need to take 15 minutes. I don't know exactly what the law is.
10-minute break.
You have to take a 10-minute break, and if you work longer than 5 hours?
You have to start technically, If you work a 6-hour shift or less than that, you can waive your 30-minute break, but if you don't, you have to start your 30-minute break at hour 5 or beforehand. So there's a lot of intricacies with regard to the law.
Yeah, and so people out there who do own your own businesses, or even if you work for a corporation, you just need to be conscious and aware of some of these laws and keep up to date on them, because they can come back if you have a disgruntled employee and say, I worked for 5 years without a break.
Absolutely. And it's going to be your word versus theirs. And that's just not, it just doesn't stand up well in court.
And as you said, the court tends to go on the employee side versus the employer side. So what words of advice do you give our listeners from a legal perspective?
I think the top 3 things you can remember from the employment side of things: document, document, and document. Yep. The hardest thing is when you get a lawsuit against you from even one of your favorite employees, and you come to a lawyer and you say, well, they were late all the time and they didn't follow protocol and they were difficult to work with, but when I ask for the employment file, it's empty. Like, well, why didn't you write the person up? Now it's your word versus their words, and nothing's in writing other than, they didn't get their break and it's not documented.
Right.
So it just makes it very difficult. But I would say always document everything from a human resource perspective. And, I'm representing another company where the person came to him and said, I want to be a 1099 contractor, and my client said, that's fine, you can do that. And then, of course, now he's being sued for wage and hour violations and misclassification. And so it's just not a defense. Not knowing and not keeping up on the law is just not a valid defense. Yeah, and things like if you're a 1099, you're not supposed to have an office on site. Mm-hmm. Or business cards. Or a email address, telephone, which is very, very interesting. I know some of my clients, I won't say who they were, but I literally was with one client for 10 years, and I had an office there, I had a phone number, I sat on their leadership team. It was the most interesting contract ever. The head of the VP of the whole division, we were in this big strategy meeting, and he looked at me and he kind of looked at the group and says, well, Patty knows what I want, and he left. So any decision I made was going to be like, at the time, I didn't know. I was relatively new into consulting. So a couple of things that I did as a manager, both internally and externally, is this document. I kept a file, a physical file, and electronic file on every employee. Now, in that documentation, I also put things they did well. So I got a complimentary letter from a customer who said, Cynthia did an outstanding job today, or she brought in a project on time below budget. I would keep those things in the file as well. So when it came to the end of the year or whatever time it is to write the performance appraisal, it was a lot easier because I had documentation. I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what my employees did, a year ago or 6 months ago. So I kept that file from that perspective. And then document on any performance issues. Mm-hmm. Maybe you forgive them for being late a couple of days. But then when that pattern starts to be they're late almost every day, is start documenting and have a verbal conversation with them, at least one verbal conversation, a second verbal conversation, then put them on some kind of performance improvement plan. We used to call them PIPs. Mm-hmm. What a great name. Performance improvement plans, where we literally would write out and say, if this happens again, you're at risk of losing your employment. Is that the kind of thing you would advise as well? Absolutely, but you want to be careful if you're letting someone come in late and you're not treating that late policy, universally among all your staff, because you can't give that preferential treatment to some employees as opposed to other employees. So I would just say, treat everybody fairly, make sure you have a policy in place, and make sure you're following your policy in place, because that's another issue we come across, where there is a clear policy about when to take breaks and when to take lunches and the schedule comes out, but if your employees aren't implementing that, that becomes another challenge.
Yeah, so I think that consistency is important. Mm-hmm. If you've got one employee who's your favorite employee and they come in 10 to 15 minutes every day and you don't say anything or you don't put them on some kind of a warning or documentation, but you have another employee that maybe you don't like as well or doesn't work as well, and you treat them differently, then you're going to be in trouble again with the law.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. This is always an interesting one because I know there are so many women I meet at almost every networking event that says, I'm working in the corporate world and I'm just not, it's not for me. In fact, statistically, we're losing a lot of our women in prime of their careers from companies because they're starting their own businesses for flexible work hours, whatever it happens to be. What advice do you have for women that want to start their own businesses?
I think they have to be passionate about what they're doing because, you don't want to leave one job that you consider work for another job that you consider work. I think that, you want to focus on passion and positive change in the world and really ask yourself why you're doing this. Simon Sinek has a good book, Start With Why, right? And you just keep asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then ultimately, the answer is to change the world.
I think every woman wants to change the world.
Yeah. So I would say, if you're considering starting your own business, just dive into it too. Don't do it halfway where you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Strategically plan for it. Strategically lay out the next steps. Get involved in networking organizations. Get involved with NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners, and really, embrace it and tell everybody that you're doing it and just jump right in and get started.
Yeah, I think the passion, so a couple of things you said I think are really important. I think the passion's critical. I created my own personal vision probably 25 years ago when I was still working in, not 25 years ago, probably about 20 years ago, when I was still working in corporations. I figured out, so what's really important to me and what do I want to do or how do I want to be known? So if in 5 years from then, if somebody wrote an article about me in my favorite magazine or in the newspaper or TV show, what do I want it to say? And eventually I got that all these random words down to a simple statement, which is to make a difference and empower people to reach their full potential. I do that by delivering and doing training workshops. I had a wonderful event last night at the Microsoft store in South Coast Plaza for a group of 25 women about how to be an empowered woman and the 5 things they could do in order to do that. So passion's really important. Figure out what your strengths are and follow that passion. And then plan for it. Go meet with, I loved your advice, is go attend a NABO meeting for free, or not for free, but to attend one of the NABO dinners and talk to other women owners about the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's the good thing about your business? What's the bad thing about it? And what are the things that are just downright ugly? For me, it's anything like invoicing, paperwork. Luckily, my husband's an accountant and helps a little bit. But any of those kind of things that are not your strengths, you're either going to have to figure out how you're going to be able to do those or hire even a virtual assistant or someone that does those things for you.
Exactly. And I think you touch on that so nicely where you want to focus on your strengths and also, evaluate yourself and know your weaknesses and hire for those weaknesses. I mean, the best thing that I think you can do is hire somebody who has a strength where it's not your strength.
Yeah, and for me, I know, like my website, I'll use that as an example because I do need to fix it, and I'm looking for an intern to do that for me. I found interns to be very, very helpful with a lot of things. They're passionate, they're eager, they want to learn from you.
And they're paid?
And they're paid low. And they're paid at least minimum wage. They're paid. They are paid. I don't use my interns. But in essence, I have a vision of what I want this website to look like, but I have zero patience and technical skills. Even though I worked for Microsoft, I never worked in the technology side. I worked in sales and marketing. But I have no way could build that. And even if I did build it, there would be mistakes and typos and things wouldn't work. So I recognize that's not my talent, and I either hire a virtual assistant, which you can find them through a number of sources like Upworks or Fiverr, are places you can find virtual assistants that you do pay, and also interns. You can find a lot of really good, eager interns that just want to learn from you. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial, and we'll come back, and we'll keep talking with Cynthia about some of her other pieces of advice and things you need to know about running your own business or being in business in general.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret, with 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
All right, back to Patty and her guest.
Great, and this is Patty Grimm. I'm with Cynthia Flynn. She owns a law firm both in Los Angeles and Orange County. Let's talk specifically about women legal business issues. If you're going to either start your own business or things you need to consider as a woman business owner, either starting up or an existing business.
Great. So one of the things that you can do is go for women-owned business certification, and there are quite a few certifications out there that you can look into. WBENC is one of them. That's WBENC, and that stands for Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and it's the largest third-party certifier of women-owned businesses controlled and operated by women. I would strongly suggest anyone who's a woman-owned business look into that certification process. There are others out there as well, but once you get that certification, it helps you get bigger contracts with, other companies who are working with the government or have some sort of, criteria that they need to meet with how many women or minority-owned businesses they need to work with every year.
Yeah, I know, and I'm in the process of getting my WBENC certification, and it's quite a lengthy process. There's a lot of paperwork, but they'll be very patient with you, and when you go through the website, it'll tell you what information you're missing. They'll contact you, and they actually come do a site visit, which they just did my site visit last week, and when I was on the phone setting it up, I said, I do work out of my home, I mean, I don't have an office because I go to my client's office. I don't have them come to me, and if I'm teaching a workshop, I'm at their office or I'm at a business meeting someplace, and so I went through the process of getting that. But one of the real advantages, as you said, is that you get exposure to lots bigger contracts. And it's not just contracts with federal and state agencies, right?
Right. That's right. It's not only, the government that you can get contracts with, it's other big companies who have that sort of requirement, and they may do work for the government. So even though it might not be directly related, you still fall under that umbrella to help you get in front of those companies. And then they have specific conferences every now and then that specifically get you in front of the top 500 companies or, the top 10,000 companies.
Yeah, I went to a conference recently, and I think I got invited to the conference and got an invitation for free because I had applied for the WBENC, and so I think they sent it back. So it was a conference in San Diego called Connecting Women with Power, and it was sponsored by Diane Harkey, I believe that's how you say her name, head of State Board of Equalization. And it was an amazing conference. It was in Escondido, and that's about an hour drive from where I live, and it was early in the morning. So, but it was an amazing conference. They had a woman astronaut there.
Wow.
Who I interviewed her and asked her, how did she decide to become an astronaut? And she said, well, it was kind of by accident. How do you decide to be an astronaut by accident? Anyway, so it was a great conference. There were probably a couple hundred women there. There were great presentations and speeches. There were breakout sessions about running your own business. So if you can keep your eye out for those kinds of conferences, those are helpful as well in sort of developing your business as you go forward.
Absolutely. And everyone there is really focused on helping bring up everybody else. So I would strongly encourage to look into that certification or, a similar certification that might fit your business, just because it can open up so many more opportunities for you.
Yeah. So what kind of things are you involved in outside of practicing law? And obviously we're both actively involved in NABO. We're both on committees.
Yes. So I sit on the board of NABO, and I run the mentoring and peer advisory program for the Orange County chapter. And I put together the mentoring program. I took over about a year ago. It's been going on through NABO for the last 15 years or so. And I pair specifically women who are just starting out in business or have a lot of questions in business with somebody who's a very experienced business owner. She, oftentimes they're in business 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And through that relationship, it's about a 9-month program. And through that relationship, they're able to ask questions about what it's like to run a practice or a business, and talk about business books that they enjoy. And a lot of times friendships really develop over that 9-month period. One of the policies, though, is not to exchange money during that time between the mentor and the mentee. But afterwards, oftentimes they become such good friends and they know so much about each other's business that referrals and business just sort of happen as like a side note on top of the benefits you already get from the mentoring program.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the mentor program, and then there's a peer advisory program.
Yes.
Tell me, what's the difference and what,
Yes. So good question. So the peer advisory program is a 6-month program, and it's basically a group of women who you're paired with for these 6 months. It's a small group. It's about 8 women. And you sit around a boardroom, and they are your board of directors. Everybody goes through the same issues in running a business, right? So you're dealing with employee issues, you're dealing with accounts receivable issues, and you just get to sit down, express your issue, and really have that board of advisors advising you and telling you what they did and what worked and what didn't work. If you're trying an advertising stream, what worked and what didn't work. If you're trying, what types of questions should you ask when you're hiring someone, what works and what doesn't work. And so they really act as your full-on board of advisors.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this is being recorded, or this is being obviously live in January 27th, but and Mary Tyler Moore just passed away. And when you were talking, I was thinking about there's one scene they're showing on TV when she's being interviewed to get the job at the TV station or the radio station, and he asked her questions about, well, are you married, or what's your the first question was, what was your religion? It's just, well, you can't ask me that question, that's illegal. And so I said, well, then how old are you? Well, I'm Christian. I mean, it's a really kind of a funny thing, but even things like what questions can you ask at an interview? You obviously can't ask somebody's age. You can't ask, religious background or their sexual preference.
Married, not married.
Married, not married. Are you planning to be pregnant?
No, stay away from that one. For sure.
And then there's also even, you can look at when they graduated from college, and then maybe you can kind of figure out how old there's just a lot of things you can and can't do, and that advisory board or that peer mentoring is really helpful in that area.
Yes. And just so everybody knows, it's starting up again in March. It only starts once a year, both for mentoring and peer advisory. You can do both at the same time, but it just starts once a year, and it's coming up. So if anyone's interested, definitely reach out to Patty.
So people in the audience that are thinking about their own business, one of the things they often ask about is, well, why would I want to join NABO? So as a board member, we're maybe having coffee someplace, and I say, well, why would I want to join NABO? It's another organization. I already go to several. I've got to pay dues, and there's monthly meetings. So what are the real benefits of being part of NABO?
Well, I'm actually so glad you asked. So NABO's whole mission is to ensure that no woman-owned business goes out of business.
I love that.
Right? And just internally speaking, I've tried to make that part of my mission for my business as well, because we're all women attorneys with women paralegals and a male receptionist. So our firm is a little different than most. It just happened that way. But, one of the things I just love about NABO is their whole mission, and if you are struggling in business, NABO will set aside a dedicated task force and help you get out of what you're struggling with, give you ideas, give you plans specifically for you and your business.
That's awesome.
It is. The Orange County chapter has about 180 members. And everyone is truly there just for the benefit of pulling up and, rising up and encouraging other women business owners to not only make it, but actually thrive and succeed and, do really, really well in business. And so that's what I love about NABO.
Yeah.
Not to mention if you are looking for events, they have a ton of events going on all the time. They have educational workshops. They have the programs that I mentioned that I run. And their whole mission is just so dedicated into what they're doing and how they're growing. So I think NABO is truly one of the best things I've done in business.
Yeah,
I joined several years ago when I first started my practice, and it has been life-changing. Just the friendships, the mentoring, the help, the business advice that you get, and it's all about serious women business owners.
Yeah, and just the fact that the mission of no women will go out, no woman's business will go out of business. You put together a task force to help this woman figure out how to keep her business running.
Yes,
or maybe it might be the tough decision that maybe she should think about something different. She went into a business but wasn't passionate about it. And therefore, the business that she thought she would love to run has become just another job.
Exactly. And so you really get to work through that.
Yeah.
I think the task force that our current president has created in the last year has just been incredible. And every task force for the specific woman, it's a different task force. So she hand selects people to really help you in what you're dealing with.
Yeah, Liz is amazing.
Liz Kammer, family law. She's amazing.
She's absolutely amazing. And the other thing are just the workshops. So you can go to workshops if you're thinking about. We've got a good partnership with Microsoft, and so there's workshops on should my business go to the cloud or not, or if I have Office 365, how do I use it to my advantage? There's workshops and things on networking to grow your business. There's everything you can imagine. The other thing that some people may not know is that, and I found this out through NABO, is the Small Business Administration offers a lot of workshops for women.
Yes.
There's one coming up on social media and networking, which I think a lot of us kind of struggle with. Well, should I be on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter and on and on and on? And so getting some sanity around that. So there's some great resources out there for you. Some of the workshops may be paid, but some are, and they're relatively low cost, or some are actually free.
Yes, and SCORE is another program that has a lot of mentoring and advice and workshops and groups that you can attend as well.
So you can probably find most of those on the Small Business Administration site, or SCORE is like the word score, like you score a goal.
Yes.
Don't remember what it stands for, and I don't think it's probably not important, but it's really good to do. So are there other organizations you're involved in outside of the firm and NABO?
I am. I'm heavily involved in the Irvine Chamber of Commerce, several Chamber of Commerces actually, the bar associations. I think just from a marketing perspective, you want to do everything you can to get your name out there, and so the more resources you have at your tips, the better you can be for your clients as well. So that's one of the things that I try to do with regard to organizations outside of our firm.
Yeah, I'm involved in the Dana Point Chamber of Commerce because I'm down there. I've met some fun and interesting people as part of that, and other volunteer type things that people do outside of the work environment. I do a lot of volunteer work for the Dana Point 5th Marine Regiment Group, and this Christmas 400 plus men and women that had been in Iraq and Iran came home right at Christmas time, and so we had a huge party on the base, on a lake on the base. We had all the soldiers there and their families. We had thousands of toys, and we just gave the kids shopping bags and said, go pick what you want. And then a local firm had donated all kinds of clothes and hats and shoes, and we just had a great time. We had a Santa, and it was one of those days in early December around Christmas time that was absolutely pouring rain. So we were out there in the rain and the mud and just welcoming these families. And so I would hand somebody a hat or a shirt, and they'd hug you and say thank you, or do I have to pay? I'm like, no, this is all donated. So anything you can do to give back to the community is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you achieve work-life balance? You're on the board of NABO. You're actively involved in these committees. You've got your business. You've got your family. How do you achieve work-life balance? I think that's a thing a lot of women struggle with.
I think that the best thing you can do is every single day work out. Do something for yourself for that 1 hour a day, and make sure that it's in your calendar and nothing else is scheduled at that time. Something you can do is rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. How am I on my family? How am I on my health? How am I doing in my business? And see where your weaknesses are and focus on that. I think that the work-life balance is a struggle that all women deal with, especially when you have, your full-fledged running business, you have your family at home, and, it's okay not to do 100% of everything with everything that you're involved with all the time. Just focus on what works well for you specifically, and focus on what works best for you and your family. But keeping the priorities straight is number one.
Yeah, I know. I talk about this in my book, and when I do my presentations and speeches, that I went through the rise to the top of the corporate ladder, the fall to the bottom of the mountain, and the climb back up again, and got into that situation where I was trying to be super mom, super worker, super volunteer, super this, super that, and I literally had a crash meltdown where I ended up taking 4 months sabbatical just to get myself back up again, because I was working probably 70 to 80 hours a week. I worked every weekend, every night. I literally would go home from work. I'd have dinner with the family, and within a half hour I was back on email till midnight. And then I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do it again. The one thing I did do even through all that was I worked out every day. I would get up 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning to work out before the family got up. But one of the things that I talk about in the book and in my speeches is you have to put yourself number one on your things to do list.
Right, because if you're not healthy, you can't be healthy in any other relationship that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a book a number of years ago called The Cinderella Syndrome, which is we're trying to be all of those things. And the Cinderella was a cartoon character that was invented by Disney. Superwoman is a comic book, and that you just simply can't do all of those things. You have to pick and choose what you can do. Are there things that you do to get your family involved in helping you with some of the things there to create that work-life balance?
Yes, absolutely. I'm fortunate. My husband is my business coach. He runs a company, and so all we do on the weekends is talk about business and how we can grow. And I plan a lunch for us every Thursday so that we can just talk about my business, not his business. But yeah, I think it's a matter of making sure that you're on the same page with your family, because that is really important. You want to make sure that you have the same aligned goals in place. And also, just from a woman's perspective, it's okay to say no to some things. Just because everybody invites you, you go to one networking event and, 10 people invite you to another networking event. It's okay to know your limits and say no. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, when I first moved back down to Orange County from Seattle area, I did a lot of networking. I probably went to way too many things. And then I narrowed it down to the maybe 2 or 3 that I thought I could consistently stay with. And I could really make, it would help me in my business, and I could make some kind of a difference to fit with sort of my vision, mission. NABO is one of those.
Yes.
Absolutely. The dinner meetings are also very educational. There's a wonderful dinner at the Center Club, but it's also very educational. There's always a topic or a panel. You learn things about your business. You network and meet some amazing women, and are able to follow up with those women.
Yes. The dinner meetings take place on the first Tuesday of every month. They're in the evening. They go from about 5:30 networking time starts, and they wrap up at 8:30 or 9-ish. So once a month meetings, it's not too overwhelming, hopefully. So,
and there are other fun things. There's like a golf group,
Yes.
and some other things that are interesting and going on. So there's lots of fun and different activities and things you can involve in. So what are some of your favorite books, maybe from a business perspective or a personal perspective? What are some of your favorite books that you enjoy reading?
Well, I made the mistake of learning a statistic about how many business books the top CEOs read per year. Any guesses?
50.
54. 54 business books a year. And so, I mean, I'm nowhere near that. I'm at like 2 a month. But I think one of my favorite business books that really changed my entire practice is I read Michael Gerber's E-Myth, right?
E-Myth, yeah.
E-Myth. It stands for the entrepreneurial myth. And it's a general business book. It applies to, how to not be the technician in your business, how to figure out how to grow and scale. But then he came out with another series of all sorts of industry-specific E-Myth books. And so the one that specifically hit home for me was the E-Myth for lawyers. Or maybe it's the E-Myth for attorneys. But it just really honed in on everything that I should be doing, could be doing, and it changed my entire practice. So I strongly recommend checking out Michael Gerber's book if you haven't. Another one that's always my favorite is Jim Collins' Good to Great.
Yep.
Which talks about, making sure you have the right people on your bus.
Yes. Yes.
And the hedgehog effect. It's like, know what you do best and just do that. Just grow from what you do best. You don't need to learn another random thing or say yes to every client who walks in your door. Just know who your client is and what you do best at, and you can just grow incredibly fast.
So two things that are in the book that you really, really just hit on perfectly. One is knowing what your strengths and practicing your strengths and leveraging your strengths. There's a number of books out there by Marcus Buckingham. Now to go discover your strengths, stand out. He's got a whole series of books. And at the end of the book, there's a code, and you go to his website and you take a questionnaire for free. That you get an entire profile that says your strengths are you're a strategist, you're a motivator, you're this, you're analytical. So you know what your strengths are, and then you play to and practice on those strengths because that's going to help you be more successful. If you think about it logically, if something is a strength, you enjoy doing it. Mm-hmm. You find yourself doing it naturally. It's pleasurable. You're in your peak performance zone. So therefore, you're more productive. If you're more productive, you'll be more profitable. Mm-hmm. So things really, really do fit together very, very well. So practicing your strengths. And then you said sometimes you don't have to say yes to every client. Mm-hmm. So part of, if you know your strengths and you have a personal vision of the kind of lawyer, consultant, healthcare company, whatever kind of company you have, if you know your strengths and you have a vision, you should also know the kind of clients you want to work with.
Yes.
And the kind of clients you don't want to work with.
Yes, exactly. So every company probably has its core values, right?
Exactly.
And you want to make sure you know those core values when you're hiring, right? And make sure everybody on your staff knows those core values and those core values are part of them. They don't change. That's your core. But you also want to look at, do my clients have these core values?
Exactly.
Which I don't think a lot of people know to look there.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you have your vendors. Do they have your core values? You want to make sure your clients, your employees, and any independent contractors, as long as you do the proper,
as long as you do the proper documentation,
the proper classification, and you just want to make sure everything is just so aligned. And so that's what I would say.
I will speak from personal experience. The times I've accepted or worked with clients or companies where their values and my values match, they have been wonderful, wonderful relationships, wonderful work, and companies that actually turned out to continue to be friends. There were 2 times I took a job for the money because it was good money, and I knew in my heart that these companies did not believe in my values. In fact, they were hiring me to come in and do a bunch of workshop for their employees to make their employees feel good. But the management above them wasn't going to change. And so now you educate these employees about how things should be, and their upper management is horrible. And they were the projects from, hell.
We've all been there.
Okay, so just one final thing. If you were to give your advice, you're so young right now, if you were to give yourself advice about starting a business or what you've learned in your career, what word of advice would you give yourself?
Just going along the same lines of the core values, know what those are. Make sure you're hiring people who reflect those core values. Make sure you're having clients who also reflect those core values. And it's okay not to take on every client. And it's okay to fire a client as well. It's okay to say no to something. That's the way I think that I wish I would have known years ago when I started.
Yeah, we all learn along the way. I think in addition to reading books, life's lessons are really important. Like if you had a bad situation, what did you learn from it? What would you do differently next time? And then remember those things.
Right, and not to dwell on it either.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody goes through that, so...
Yeah. Well, thanks, Cynthia. It was great having you here today, and thanks, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate your feedback. Again, this is Patty Grimm. I'm an author, coach, speaker, and trainer. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach me at pattygrimm@live.com, and that's PATTIE. GRIMM at live.com. And Cynthia, how can people get in touch with you?
My office is Hackler, Flynn and Associates. My website is www.hacklerflynnlaw.com. And then my email address is Cindy, CINDY, at hacklerflynnlaw.com.
Great. Well, thank you. So please reach out to and contact me if you have a topic you'd like to hear about on the show. I'm interested in hearing about relevant topics you'd like to hear. If you'd like to be on the speaker on the show, please contact me. I'll book you several months out, and we'll get you prepared for the interview. Also, if you're interested in a speaking situation, you've got a conference coming up. I do keynote speeches as well as workshops, and I can also do workshops and webinars for your company. I appreciate everybody listening today, and you can buy my book, Quiet Women Never Change History, on Amazon. Be strong, stand up, stand out. Let's go kick some glass. So it is on Amazon, and you can pick up the book for lots of tips and ideas of how you could be a great empowered woman leader. And thanks, Cynthia. Have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best they can be. Listen each week or download the podcast at patty.grimm.podbean.com. To reach out to Patty to schedule a speech webinar or to learn more about her leadership and team training, contact Patty at pattygrimm@live.com. For more information about her company and her books, have a kicking day.